Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Today we're going to try something a little different. See, I get a lot of donations. Some of them are just a single comic, and some of them are entire boxes full of comics. And in one box, I got no less than 3 copies of the exact same comic. I have no idea why they felt the need to send me 3 copies, but it's understandable why they had 3 of the same comic. As I've said in previous videos, the early 90s gave rise to the speculator market, where comic prices inflated and people believed that any issue 1 was going to be an instant collector item that needed to be preserved in an airtight Mylar bag and sealed in a vault so that its appreciated value would make them rich. This was also called, "You are a dumbass and know nothing about economics." This is especially true when we consider that a short time before I released this episode, the 2 comics that featured the first appearances of Superman and Batman both went for over $1 million each. But that's the thing, it's Superman and Batman. Even if you've never read a comic book in your life, they're both a part of pop culture and are enduring aspects of it. Most characters in comic books don't get that luxury, and certainly not anything created in the past 20 or 30 years. Few copies in decent condition of Action Comics number 1 or Detective Comics number 27 still exist, so of course they have value. But the hype machine in the early 90s was on full drive, which brings us to today's subject. Ladies and gentlemen and others, this is the highest selling single issue of a comic book in history. X Men number 1. The total sales figures seem to vary depending on where I look, but somewhere between 8 and 12 million copies were sold. Just to put that in perspective, the estimated top-selling individual issues of comics for both Marvel and DC for January were Siege number 1 at 108,000 copies, and Green Lantern number 50 at 106,000 copies. And even then, Siege is an event comic for Marvel, and that's not only an anniversary issue of Green Lantern, but a tie-in to their Blackest Night event. Yeah, bit of a difference in numbers, isn't it? You're probably all wondering where I'm going with this. Well, upon receiving 3 copies of the best-selling comic of all time, I had to wonder, is it really that good? Well, let's dig into X Men number 1 and find out.
Welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. Brodsky, you're not the smartest. Life out, you're not an artist. Anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he's a man punch, wears a party hat. Linkara, he has a magic gun. Where'd he purchase that? Linkara, coins, robots, Amazon and trucks. Linkara, this comic sucks. Linkara. X-Men, X-Men, it's the day, X-Men, coming your way. Magneto's horns are all the way to
What really contributed to the sales success of the comic was the cover, or rather the covers. What you're looking at here is a 4-part cover, meaning that if you wanted to get the full thing for a display or something, you needed to buy 4 copies of that comic. Taken together, it's a fairly standard group shot, but well drawn and dynamic. Well, except for Magneto, who's just looking at the reader and holding out his hand as if to say, "Give me your money!" However, individually, the covers aren't all that great. A few characters fill up the space and to look badass and ready to charge and all that junk. Also, everyone, and I do mean everyone, is suffering from Youngblood's disease, with their eyes replaced by blank white holes. Well, except for Cyclops, but that's to be expected, what with the laser eyes and all. We open in space, or to be accurate, near-Earth space, on the shadow side of the Terminator. A space shuttle is under attack by another space shuttle. Yeah, little known fact, NASA loves to have dogfights just outside the atmosphere. It's why they keep losing funding. This is actually a really good example of the head-scratching nature of technology in superhero comics. Sometimes they have space shuttles with laser weapons, or giant robots with stun burst and etc., and other times their tech level matches what we've got today. I really wish editors would just get together and figure out if their tech is futuristic, or if it's like our own. Anyway, the lead space shuttle is trying to locate Asteroid M, the home base for Magneto. Though this is actually the third version of Asteroid M, this one being in geosynchronous orbit of Earth. The previous two were... Oh yeah, by the way, I finally fixed it. The people being chased, called the Acolytes to save us some trouble, managed to destroy one of the pursuit craft, who are Russian by the way. The Russians get ready to open fire, but suddenly all their ships are blasted apart by Magneto. I am rapidly losing interest in whatever you choose to do on the Earth's surface. Despoil the environment, slaughter yourselves to the last child, I no longer care. As long as I have uninterrupted satellite TV, I don't care. But I refuse to allow you to export your penchant for violence to my very doorstep. And if you've come to tell me that my kids are doing each other, I sadly already know. Reference to a previous episode of my show, plus an alternate universe. Magneto plans to just send them back to Earth, though how he plans to do so isn't clear, since I'm pretty sure his mastery of magnetism doesn't work from several miles away, or else he would have defeated the X-Men long ago. However, the Acolytes say that they're mutants like him and wish to aid him in his quest to protect mutant kind. The Soviets contact the USA, since it was their shuttle that the Acolytes stole, and coordinate their plans to attack Magneto before he can attack them, since, you know, he has a giant rock sitting above their heads that he could probably send down at any time he wanted. Meanwhile, at Charles Xavier's school for gifted youngsters, adult superheroes, and time-traveling children of those superheroes, the X-Men are preparing themselves for a training exercise. Two notes for this. The first is that the artist for this book is Jim Lee, who drew the excellent Batman series Hush, and the not-so-excellent Batman series All-Star Batman and Robin. So while the art is actually pretty decent here, it's suffering from a lot of the problems of early 90s artwork, including a new one that we haven't covered yet for women. This one's called Why Won't My Hips Unsway, named by short-packed webcomic creator David Willis. And while he may have been talking about artwork that was traced from real photos, here it's an example of how we can't have women standing up straight. No, they must cock their hips to the side. Seriously, ask yourself if you've ever seen a woman standing in such a way so that their hips are pushed out so far that they've cleared their shoulders. The other thing to note is the costumes. I mentioned back in my Uncanny X-Men review how much I disliked the uniforms they were wearing, and this team is an example why. As a personal preference, I have never been a fan of matching uniforms. Sometimes a team can pull it off, like the Fantastic Four, but superhero comics should be colorful and unique. So while the team still has the X motif going for them, they each have individual patterns, colors, and looks to them. It also helps that I'm being nostalgic for the 90s X-Men animated series that introduced me to the team, which used these designs. Though the one downside to this team is that Wolverine is wearing that ugly brown-colored version of his outfit. Anyway, the training exercise is simple. Two teams invade the mansion and try to capture Professor X. Xavier himself is lamenting how the world still seems to not embrace tolerance and peace and all that hippie crap, and wonders, with the recent death of some of their members, if their peaceful world can ever be achieved. You know, character stuff. Rogue and Iceman,
you can be my wingman anytime,
are the first to attack. Of course, the School for the Gifted has missile emplacements and other high-tech defensive weapons. As an aside, how the hell did Xavier pay for all this stuff? I don't think they give Pell Grants for this sort of thing. Mr. Xavier, we were just looking at your proposed budget and we had to raise an eyebrow for the missile defense system? And what's this about laser trip mines to defend your telepathic locator system for finding mutants? We're very strict about our school's no alcohol on campus policy. Rogue, of course, is capable of giving an entire monologue to herself as she evades the missiles. I like this idea better. I call it Return to Sender. This time I'm going to put it right in her hand, and if it comes back the very next day, then I'll understand. With the missiles out of the way, Archangel tosses Colossus through the window right to where Jean Grey is protecting Professor X. However, her telepathy manages to knock Colossus away. Down below, the other team goes the low road and tries to enter the mansion via the sewer system. However, they're confronted by a group of yellow robots. And what's this item here about sewer-based robots? Look, I just felt that their education would be aided if they had sewer-based robots. For, you know, learning and stuff. While Wolverine and Psylocke take on the robots, Gambit manages to get into the mansion. And considering he's coming from the sewers, it makes perfect sense that he drops down from the ceiling. With a speed that defies description. Except for, you know, that motion arc that we can see drawn. And a smile guaranteed to melt the fiercest heart.
It doesn't work on a cold-hearted.
I love how in some older comics they felt the need to really spruce up the prose when it came to the idea of throwing a playing card that explodes thanks to his superpowers. With Jean knocked away by the blast, Gambit takes a moment to kiss Jean full on the lips. And she blows up. Geez, I've heard of explosive kisses, but damn! Actually, both she and the Professor were robot decoys that I guess were programmed to explode when someone kissed them. Wait a second, if they were robots, how the hell did they use psychic powers against Colossus? Mr. Xavier, this list is starting to get a little ridiculous. Exploding robot duplicates? Look, sometimes I'm sick and I need the day off, but I can't find a substitute, and sometimes the kids can get a little rowdy, so I stuff them with TNT to teach them a lesson. The real Jean Grey laughingly suggests to her husband that she could kiss him anyway, and Cyclops responds with, "Oh really? When next the opportunity presents itself, remind me to drop a truck on him." Cyclops, a big truck. Cyclops, a really big truck. Cyclops! Cyclops, how dare you engage in good-natured ribbing? You're supposed to be an asshole! Wolverine comes up through the floor and puts his claws up to Xavier to indicate that he won. However, Cyclops is back in his jackass mode and pulls Wolverine's arm away, berating him for being so careless with his claws considering how dangerous they are. It's also revealed that they were actually in the Danger Room, which is now basically a big holodeck, which of course brings up all the physics problems from that little bit of Star Trek tech, but we'll ignore that for now.